So this time change really has me all messed up. I was up at 2 thinking I was peeing at 3. And then I was up at 4 thinking my body's at 5. So whatever. So I'm up early. And so, yeah, I belong to a lot of different groups, like a lot of different groups. And I see a lot of the stuff come through my news feed, as well as just, I have like 4,300 people. Good morning, everybody, on my Facebook. And I've been unfollowing a lot. I will comment on some pages that I don't care if they block me, or I have no problem blocking them. Hey, Vicky. So yeah, yesterday, someone did a meme. They posted a meme, and I'm like, oh God. Something about, if you've just been recently vaccinated, please stay away from the immunocompromised, the elderly, the babies, the ones that are on chemotherapy, and stay away from me. And I'm just like, what? Ooh, it triggered me. That triggered me. So I had to actually comment. And I had, I said some stuff, nothing bad, but I just said, hey, I understand the immunocompromised and the weak and the babies and the elderly, okay, are going to have a problem regardless, okay? But what's your excuse? And so she had to come back at me and say, oh, my kid's on chemotherapy and you don't know anything about me, and da, da, da. And I'm like, well, I know enough that you're using your child's situation, your child that has cancer, as a way to exploit him to then push your political agenda. And then I blocked her because I see too much of that. I see a lot of that. Both the pro-vax and the anti-vax utilizing their children as an exploitation model to push an agenda, to push their political agenda. And at some point, when are we going to stop using our kids to lash out at the world because of weaknesses, and that you want to impose your politics on somebody else? Okay, there are people that have very strong immune systems that can handle the vaccines and some of the remedies that are out there. Obviously, it's not optimal, okay? It's not optimal over a long period of time, but people need to use it in the interim while they're trying to figure out their body. And some people are trying to figure out their body until they pass away. But there's a place for all of the remedies. Yes, there's a place for the holistic remedies. There's a place for the allopathic remedies. There's a place for vaccines. There's a place for chemotherapy. But now we're finding out through the JJU's protocol that you have to understand that those two, the holistic and the allopathic, are no different. There is a specific intention with the same elements, different packaging, different marketing. You have to know that so you don't think that there's a difference and then overdo it with the holistic stuff, not realizing that it's the same stuff. Okay, when I saw when I saw a mother talking about her child, saying that my child is asking me for garlic cloves, eating garlic cloves, and thinking that it's a proud thing that her kid is eating garlic cloves. I'm like, holy crap, the holistic world has gone way out of control. So that's when I posted all those different memes that talk about that the holistic allopathic, no different, same elements, same intention, different packaging, different marketing, but the same stuff. Okay, and the whole thing with the vaccines, the anti-vax, pro-vax, no matter what, if you're anti-vax, pro-vax, you have a weak body. What if we didn't raise children and have, a reason for biotech, a reason for vaccines, a reason for remedies? And if you're trying to destroy the chemotherapy industry and destroy the vaccine industry and biotech, then you shouldn't be justifying natural remedies, because it's under the same umbrella. They're both trying to manage your symptoms, your weaknesses. If nobody ever got sick, we wouldn't need biotech. We wouldn't need vaccines. We wouldn't need any of those things. But the fact that we do have weak people is justifying the chemotherapy. It's justifying all the different drugs and the natural remedies. Okay? So anyways, I did a bunch of memes, and you guys can share them and look them at whatever, and that's fine. So then I've also been part of, how this protocol got developed was because I've been part of so many different groups. I mean, when I was on the truck with my husband for 6 months, While he was driving, I was sleeping, because every single time I'm in a car, a moving car, I tend to fall asleep. So he'd be driving for like 11 hours. I'd be sleeping for 5 out of those 11 hours, maybe a bit more than that, because I was also in my PMDD stuff. And so when he would stop driving and go on his 10-hour break, then I'd be awake. So I would be on YouTube, on Facebook, watching video after video for 6 months. Imagine 6 months just straight up on a truck with nothing to do but look at the internet, okay? So I watched a bunch of David Icke videos about the reptilians. I learned all about in the beginning, 2012, when everyone's thinking like, oh my God, the fall of society and the fall of whatever. And so I learned about the ascension people, the Pleiadians, reptilians, Pleiadians, the archons, okay? So I was getting into all this fantasy stuff and stories, and also learning the Bible stuff too, and then learning just the holistic stuff, and learning all the different conspiracies about the Rothschilds and the Illuminati and MK Ultra, and you name it. You go on the internet and you Google all of those keywords, you will have pages and pages and pages of just straight up blog sites, websites of somebody's take on the archons, reptilians, the Pleiadians, David Icke stuff, and then the Illuminati and MK Ultra and mind control and brainwashing and Disney and pedophilia and all this. I mean, I'm telling you, it's insane how much is on the internet. So I kind of have like a bird's eye view of pretty much everything out there, because I had 6 months of nothing to do but sit on the internet on my phone and freak out about all the new information that I learned, and then learn stuff, and then deal with kindred spirits, because we're all dealing with some kind of disease. And I go to these different groups, and everyone's like, oh, I have this issue, I have that issue. And that's when this protocol was born, was from the amount of information that I was taking in, trying to now solve my own problems, okay? So now that, I never picked a religion, because remember, you know, religion is ever prevalent, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Catholic, you know, Christian, you name it, everything out there. Religion seems to explain someone's perception of life and death, okay? And so finally, through the protocol, as I were moving through the protocol, I'm now seeing the connections of the different words for like God. So God, Yahweh, spirituality, life, all of that really has to do with how they explain life, and then the whole good and evil. Good is life and evil is death. And then you see then all of the whole duality. So you guys know about duality, black and white, for and against. Okay, now whether or not you're for or against or black and white, it's all relative to your perception of what evil is and what good is, what death is and what life is. And that's where, you know, we don't really argue too much with somebody if they believe that people should die and they think it's a good thing. Fine, that's your belief system, but that's their perception of life and death. Okay, so all these religions with all these different names, God and Allah and Buddha and Yahweh, really represents life. Okay, and then the devil and the reptilians and the archons. So we're going to head into that world now. Thanks, Vicky. Okay, because I did study that world, but I didn't study it too much, but I do belong to several different groups that do talk about some of the conspiracy stuff, some of the stories. I don't even say fables, but the stories of how someone explains their perception of life on this earth, how it even came to be, because there's creationism, there's all these different beliefs on how we came about, the aliens, the Anunnaki, the Book of Enoch. I mean, I'm telling you, you name it, somebody has their perception of how we came to be. And I'm telling you, I have no idea. All I know is I'm coming from the world of science, because science and academia and college, okay, even though there's a certain amount of brainwashing, yes, based upon a specific intention for corporations and getting along in our society, there is a set of foundation of definitions, of explanations, of just basic science that we all have to kind of like just accept that this is because we have to have some kind of organization, some kind of platform, a baseline to work from. So the definition of what a cell is, a definition of what hormones are, of what oxytocin is, you got to know the basics. Before then, you can start understanding your body and then understand how people explain their body, life and death, and all of that out there in the religion. Because religion and science, remember, religion and science are basically the same thing. It's just one way of explaining the same thing in a different way. So spirituality is the same thing too. That's why I don't get why these people who are spiritual hate the people who are Christian or Catholic, because they're the same people. They're just explaining the same thing in a different way with different words, but the same stuff. Okay? And we see it in science anyways, where you have so many different words for the same thing. Okay? So science and religion are the same thing. And I don't know, I just got like a brain fart for a minute. But anyways, okay. And so finally I figured out that the common ground has to come from science. Okay? So the adrenaline, all the hormones that come to surface that are imbalanced, it's like people have to have an explanation for them. And then they manifest. And then you've seen our evolution. You've seen just within the last 100 years, you've seen pictures of people who are really, really tall, people who have a lot of different disabilities and all of that. And you see how people age, and people don't age very well. I mean, you look at how people age, hey, honest day, people don't age very well. So some people look kind of crazy as they're aging, almost look like witch-like, like warlock-like, almost like the crypt keepers. And so people have explanations of why people look a certain way. So say, oh yeah, that person is an archon. Okay, so I'm going to read this thing, because we do talk about, like with the Jade Juice protocol, that we are actually calming down the hormones that are really, really present, that are been coming to surface because people are on a death trajectory. And so we talk about oxytocin. We talk about adrenaline, epinephrine, and we talk about the dopamine, all the different hormones that people bring to surface whenever they're trying to anesthetize themselves, or they are so imbalanced that when they have like a PTSD trauma, those hormones come to surface and they don't really leave. And then the person operates from that level of that hormone that's most present. And then sometimes it calms down, yes, but then there's triggers. So people get triggered very easily when that same situation happens, and that hormone comes to surface very, very quickly. Or they turn to that hormone very, very quickly because it's what keeps them calm. It gives them some semblance of order, and it's almost like the body is looping. And that's what you see right now, is people are looping in the same hormones all the time. Adrenaline, oxytocin, pleasure seekers, pleasure hunters, major aggression, bullying, okay? Or just, the empaths. We're all about love, 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 mothering, wanting to tell you how to do stuff. I mean, I'm telling you, a lot of these hormones are coming to surface and are so present on the surface, and you see it in people. You see it in people. So, anyways, we have to understand there's different ways to explain the same scientific stuff. And the whole thing with the archons and the demiurge and the reptilians and the Pleiadians and David Icke. Okay, then we're learning about viruses. Viruses are no different than ghosts. Okay, ghosts are basically RNA and DNA missing. And it's that biochemistry, the data that they've acquired over so many periods of time, plus then the chemistry that was most present at the time of the death, is then what makes the spirit come to life. And then there has to be like a lot of aggression from that specific death. And Anastasia, just chill out, okay? Just chill out. All right? We know it's been programmed. Let me just get through this, okay? So the viruses and ghosts and all of these different hauntings and the really nice ghosts and the really mean ghosts, they're just viruses, but it's also biochemistry. So viruses, biochemistry, hormones, ghosts, then all of these different, what would say like the reptilians and the Pleiadians, what David Icke is talking about, where he can see under different frequency, the different, like the reptilians and stuff. Well, he's talking about the evil, not to say evil, but the person that is, that has like the testosterone that does mean stuff, bad stuff, kills people. Well, he sees that under a different frequency, and he knows about that because it's no different than Zack Bagan going and ghost hunting. David Icke and Zack Bagan are really no different. They both have a different explanation of the same thing. What hormone is most present? And it's adrenaline, testosterone, based upon then the death trajectory of that person. Okay? And so really when you look at, if you understand from the point of view of like the whole thing with good and evil, the Pleiadians are like the good, the light, the God, the life, okay? And then the reptilians and the archons are a representation of death and destruction and chaos and a death trajectory. You see, it's no different than when a person who is on a death trajectory exhibit the same characteristics that an archon, a reptilian, and a demiurge. Well, demiurge, well, yeah, it's more of a belief. It's more of a, it's like saying that the universe was created by an all-powerful being that gave us all these different hormones. Okay, so let me read this, because I didn't study this so much, but I'm kind of getting the gist. And then when you understand the whole duality of good and evil, you'll see then it's about life versus death. It still all comes down to life versus death. Okay, so, all right, so archons. So this is the Gnostic referred to archons. So archons or archons are the parasite. Okay, so parasites aren't necessarily bad. Parasites are actually have a place based upon the needs of the body. Okay, so if you are on a death trajectory and you're not getting rid of your crap, your poop, okay, then you need the parasites to then compost your poop. Okay. So the parasite and abortion, okay, an unformed mass, lion-headed beast, serpent, dragon, says clearly they can shapeshift. So archons are like viruses, all right? They're viruses based upon a weak body. Because remember, viruses can be the strength on a strong body. They can catapult you to the next level of evolution, or they could destroy you based upon the state of your body, okay? So you can have epigenetics, epigenetics is not a bad thing, Anastasia. It's based upon the state of the body, because mutations and epigenetics and evolution come from mutations. And it comes from us adapting to a new environment. So why we have a very strong population, relatively strong, you know, and why we don't have just Neanderthals, we have a mixture of Neanderthal and Homo sapien, is because they have mixed together to then create then the next evolution, the next being. And with their worst mutations, yes, but they're good mutations, epigenetics. Okay, that's cool, Anastasia. Very good, both of you guys. And then it strengthened the human. And so, yeah, so epigenetics are not bad. It's just based upon the state of the body. All right. So anyways, so being controlled by a parasite, well, I mean, if you have a weak body, okay, you're on a death trajectory, then yeah, you're going to be controlled by something that's taking over. Okay? So Anunnaki, gods of the past, rulers. Well, you know, I mean, people have been dying for centuries. They just go through the same cycle of death, but they have a different explanation of it. Okay? And how you know people are going through the same cycle of death is because people are getting sick. They get sick, they go through reproduction, and then they die, and then they, you know, and then reproduction. And it's the same cycle. Death and reproduction is the same cycle when the body when the body is on that death trajectory, okay? So anyway, so this person goes, this is cryptic, but it says again, Sophia emitted darkness, the ether or matter, right? The images belong to Sophia is our soul that the archons simulate. It also say that the parasites archons were created while Sophia was angered by the stars, the great Anunnaki gods. This means archons are two things, the great gods Anunnaki and the parasites. Well, okay. When Sophia contemplated 17 these stars, she emitted the darkness, 18 fleeing what is subject to the 19 archons since it is an invisible mold, 20 a principle of the insubstantial substance of 21, and the formless form, a shapeless shape mass. It makes room for every cosmic thing that all the corrupt product, since it is a rational principle that persuades the darkness. He soused from his reason, since it is impossible for the archon of creation to see any of the eternal entities. He saw reflection. I mean, this gets into some deep stuff. And then they talk about so thus the following words used in Gnostic and other texts are the same meaning: rulers, powers, principalities, authorities, archangels, demons. Demons is like death. They are all archons in the different Gnostic use. So archon is kind of a catch-all term. Well, you know, archon is the death trajectory. It's how it manifests. How does that, I mean, because we weren't there 300 years ago, 400, 500, 600 years ago. We weren't there. So we're just getting someone's perception of what the death trajectory looks like. Okay? It's something that someone wrote. Go on my Facebook wall, you'll see it. Okay, I'll copy and paste it in a minute. But we could be dealing with worms, which are somewhat similar to serpents and are more parasitic by nature. I have in the past noticed that the word mother could be moth and an and there are silkworms that are moths. Moths and worms are related. It's probably nothing but interesting to contemplate. Moths are also drawn to artificial light. In the depiction of the demiurge that is used all the time for Gnosticism, the creature looks every bit as much of a worm as it does a serpent. I believe there was an actual reptilian serpent dragon being that were here at one time. Okay. While others becoming influenced by the parasites or just participating in its system, there were physical beings also like this. So the archons are inorganic, as they say, meaning they are not physical in any way. We can see them. Okay, so archons, again, are viruses, how it hits the body. It also seems that there are levels of them, some being the equivalent of a mosquito to extremely persuasive shape-shifting entities. The key is that they all come from their source, the demiurge, and are inorganic also. See, here's the thing with the whole thing with Gnosticism and the demiurge. They're thinking that every soul is trapped in a body, in a prison of a body that is very mundane, very not very, I would say, how do I say this? In a material world. Okay, so in a way it's like a pejorative that the soul is trapped in a body, and this is where people then justify death, is that it's okay for the body to go back to the earth and be recycled, and the soul lives on, but where does it go? Well, now you have all these different belief systems that, oh, it goes to the next plane, you go back to home in Pleiades or whatever, and I'm just like, no, the whole body, mind, and spirit, they really need to be aligned, and you have not only your spiritual self, but also your physical self. What is your spiritual self? It's the biochemistry, it's the data. The viruses either going to catapult you to the next level, or they're going to destroy you based upon the state of your body, how you take care of yourself. Okay, so there's a lot of different religions that promote death because they've separated and misaligned the body, mind, and spirit. They say the body and the mind, or the body is separate from the mind and the spirit, and that they're allowing the body to go to crap while the spirit and the mind live on. And then when you see some of the hauntings, you see people like David Icke that talk about the reptilians and the different frequencies, why you can only see certain frequencies based upon, and he's talking about certain people can see reptilians. Well, I mean, when people are a medium, when they have a similar biochemistry, kindred spirit, no different than Zack Bagan, And the Ghost Adventures, I mean, David Icke and Zack Bagan are two of the same people, just explaining the same thing in a different way. No different than religion and science explaining the same thing in a different way. No different than the spiritual people versus the Christians explain the same thing in a different way. But you have to understand the key players in all of their stories. The key players are good and evil. And it's always coming from a duality type of perspective. That's how you can notice the patterns in everything. When someone characterizes something good or evil or pollution or nutritious or this, it's based upon the state of the body, how that perception of what they're looking at and feeling is based upon what biochemistry, what hormone is present at the time. Okay, so this is how we can cut through all of the different stories and different belief systems and find the common ground. Okay, and that's really what's missing in our societies. We have so many different stories of the same thing, and nobody can really decipher and pick out the similarities, because the words is what causes the differences. Oh, Pleiadian, life, Allah, God, Yahweh, Jesus, Buddha. I mean, it's all the same shiz. Thank you, Anastasia, and thank you, Vicky. Hey, Jill. Okay, and so it took me, I mean, I'm telling you, the 6 months on that truck, I learned so much when my husband was driving, and I'm just like, what am I going to do except rail about the towers, right? Thinking that these cell towers are like a concentration camp type of stuff. And read everything about the Anunnaki, and read everything about David Icke, and read everything about the fall of society and Alex Jones and the holistic stuff. And then all of that is just like in the back of my mind, just kind of swirling around. And finally now on the J-Juice, I'm able to organize all of this information. Now, Anastasia, I don't really go and listen to other people. I know it's all the same story, but explained in a different thing. Okay, believe me, people want me to go watch all their videos. I'm gonna watch everything. I don't need to watch, because now we have a protocol. Okay, Anastasia, we have a protocol that will organize all of the information out there, so you don't have to read and watch 50 million people's rendition of the same thing. Okay, I'm trying to save you guys time from watching videos, from exploring different protocols and different religions and different things when it's not really that different. It's coming from the same human race with their spin on it. That's why I don't like private messaging for people giving me their videos, giving me their blog sites, giving me all of their perspective, because it's all the same stuff. It's just packaged up differently. No different than the Democrats, Republicans, no different than the holistic world and the allopathic world. It's all the same stuff based from the same elements, but packaged differently. Okay, so that's why you're seeing me on Facebook Live all the time saying the same thing in a different way, so I can reach all of the different listings out there, because you all are coming from different perspectives. Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I know it's all good, but I don't need to, I just don't need to watch another video of the same stuff. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so that's why I say things on Facebook in different ways to reach different people with the same information, and then say, okay, you guys are no different. You guys are no different. Okay? And so now when you look at and read someone's information, you watch someone's information, you look at their vlogs, you look at their blogs and all of that, and you find the patterns of good and evil, and you find the patterns of pollutant versus nutrition. Now take it a step further, Anastasia, living indefinitely and actually exemplifying it. Well, how do you exemplify living indefinitely? First of all, you have to look at reversing the aging process, because this is the whole point of the J-Juice. I'm not just regurgitating the same thing that someone else said. That's not the point of what this whole transmission is, Anastasia. This is about applying the Jilly Juice to where then you see through the BS, you see through the differences, you find the similarities, and you reverse the aging process, and you stay on this earth indefinitely, body, mind, and spirit, all aligned physically and mentally, emotionally, and all of that. And then you just go about your business. You're not part of the activism. You're not taking part in the division of each other. You're not tearing each other apart. You're putting your boundaries down. You are protecting yourself, and you are changing the course of humanity. Because I can listen to a million freaking videos, and guess what? It's not going to say anything different than what I'm saying already. But where is the difference is when you actually reverse your aging process, your cancer, disease, and chronic illness. That's where I'm different than all of your people that you're listening to. That's why I don't listen to people out there, aside from myself, because I'm saying something totally different and exemplifying it. If you've seen my videos from like 3 or 4 years ago, I will tell you I'm very different as far as my facial structure, how I communicate, and the information. Okay? And so people think that, oh yeah, you're just like this person, just like that person. No, they're aging and degrading. They may have great things to say, but they haven't taken it to the next level. How are they exemplifying the body, mind, and spirit? Doesn't matter, Anastasia. I'm not going to go and listen to all of your people. I'm just trying to give you a different perspective, okay? Please don't argue with me on my transmission, all right? Please. If you're going to tune in, just chill out, all right? But I don't need to listen to somebody else's vlog or somebody else's stuff. If you want to stay on my Facebook, just know when to just back off. So I'm telling you, please back off just a little bit, okay? Please. Because that's what it comes down to, is that regardless of all the stories out there, what are you doing to reverse all of your health issues? And then we then cut through the BS and stop with the storytelling, and let's just take it down to pure science. Take it down to pure science. But I have to bust through the programming of the storytelling of the Archons, and the Reptilians, and the Pleiadians, because that's all stories. It's not really based in, like, I mean, yeah, who knows what happened 500 years ago, but was there a point to even speculate? You look at what goes on today. Do you see any crazy giants today? Oh, but are they hiding it and they're keeping it from us? Well, whatever the case may be, if you're not seeing anything but what you see right now, you're seeing humanity struggle with their cancer, disease, and chronic illness. You see humanity struggle with criminal activity and people trying to live. First, let's get humanity healthy, and then we can figure out what really happened a long time ago. But how do you figure out what happened a long time ago if you have people still struggling to even meet their baser needs, to get to the point where they can be actually, like, you know, in Maslow's self-actualization pyramid? At some point, all of us need to reach a point of self-actualization, if we are around long enough to see that point of Maslow's ladder of needs and whatever. Okay? So that's why I don't really pay attention to too many of the stories out there. And so I don't mean to jump on you, Anastasia, but I get a lot of people that come on here and they jump in, and I don't know how much you know about the JJs or what my whole premise is. I'm not trying to tell another story. All I'm doing is saying, hey, we have to now take humanity in a different direction. The stories out there have distracted people to where they're not even taking care of themselves. They're so stuck in the story that they actually are destroying themselves in the process. They're stuck in the Pleiadians, the Archons, the Demiurge, the David Icke stuff. You know, they get stuck in all of that, and then they loop and they loop and they loop. And now I'm saying, get off the train, you guys. Get off that damn train, and let's do something different with your kids, with you. Get off the train of fear. Get off the train of storytelling. I mean, it's fine if you know how to then liken it back to something that you can, that can be substantiated in real life, not some story in a book that it's fun to fantasize about, but it really does nothing for you, really. Okay? That's the whole point of the J-Juice. It takes you out of the fantasy world and brings you back to reality. And that's very hard for a lot of people who are just starting this protocol, because they've been stuck in the stories for such a long time. And to get them out of the stories is like pulling teeth. And some will stay stuck in their story. And there's a million stories out there. I studied the million different stories out there on the 6 months I was on the truck. And then another 6 months, another couple years on the internet playing with the holistic stuff. doing all my detoxes and pills, powder supplements, and finding there's nothing different except that I was getting worse and worse and worse. And then the protocol emerged out of all of that. Out of all the stories, out of everything that's out there, the protocol emerged from that. Okay? So that's fine, Anastasia. And it's hard to get your point across through messaging because you're trying to listen to me and trying to type at the same time. And it's just like the whole multitasking thing, you know? So I totally get it. I totally get it. So anyways, and then then this person goes, oh yeah, and then, God, here, what is it? So the archons are inorganic, as they say, meaning they are not physical in a way we can see them. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, if I see that little piece of energy from that spirit that's in the house, that's like a way to see that, I guess. But I can't see it in real life, you know, as far as any kind of virus goes. Okay, so the Greys and the reptilians are infected also. Greys and reptilians, I mean, these are aliens, but are aliens then people who have specific biochemistry, okay? And are they the dead people with the really crazy biochemistry that people who are on their way out the door with the same kindred spirits can kind of see, but others can't? Because why could some people see ghosts and see dead people, right? Like the Sixth Sense, or like on these ghost shows where you have these mediums, they can conjure up ghosts and stuff, right? So the Greys and reptilians are infected also. They work for the demiurge and also. Let me see. There's a lot. And then the demiurge jealousy. Okay, so the archons are created out of the demiurge jealousy, which is an emotion. And let's talk about emotions. Okay, so you start looking at the different emotions. That's why I'm bringing in all the chemistry, biochemistry, the names of the biochemistry, the names of the hormones that create the biochemistry. And when this biochemistry comes to surface based upon PTSD, trauma, triggers, death trajectory, life trajectory. I mean, hormones come to surface at different times, and especially during PTSD types of stuff. So, so being born out of emotion, maybe they needed to feed off of emotion, negative emotion, especially since jealousy is considered a negative emotion. So without anything to feed off of, they decided to create for themselves a food source, human. See, this is where people were getting crazy when I was reading all this stuff and part of different groups where these people are like, oh my God, the reptilians are feeding off of you guys. I mean, some people were so crazy they were getting away from society and living off of beans and rice. They're saying, oh yeah, if you eat meat, you're like a reptilian eating the humans. I mean, it was crazy, crazy, crazy. And this reminds me of this. So they gave humans a limited range of perception so we can't see them and get wise to their plan. They gave us chemicals such as dopamine, oxytocin to help create the emotion from. Also, we are pleasure pain driven, okay? They even gave us neurons and the nervous system to tell us that we are in pain or pleasure, probably to cause us to create the emotions. They gave us plants and animals, domestication to give us their food, a food source, to distract us by having us think we are at the top of the food chain and are in control of everything. So I'll copy and paste this and put it in there, Anastasia. But that's somebody's story of why there are evil people in the world. Okay? That's somebody's story of why humans exist and why we should die at some point to escape this prison planet, to escape the prison body, to escape the matter, the material world. And I'm just like, no, I don't. That's basically someone speaking from a death trajectory, promoting death. Get rid of all the story, all the words, all the fantasy, and now you're seeing someone that is just hopeless. And their way of explaining their hopelessness is through the stories. Because remember, humans get creative when they're going through a trauma. They get creative. I mean, I got creative when I was going through all my different traumas with the OAG, the FTC, the Dr. Phil stuff. I got creative with the protocol. I got creative, and then things started happening. Revelations started happening. And through all that trauma and PTSD came the creativity and then the revelations. And then finally, I don't deal with all that crap anymore, but I'm still having revelations. So I don't even need the negative energy anymore to then convert it to my revelations. I can now take all the good energy and still convert it to good stuff. I don't need the negative emotions to feed my creativity. And that's kind of, yeah, it's over dramatization. I mean, that's kind of the same thing, is that when somebody is in a negative state, they need negative emotions to feed their creativity, to feed their existence. But now I don't have those negative emotions. I don't have those hormones that are up at the most present. So I don't need to feed off of all of the negative stuff. But those that feed off the negative stuff have negative emotions that are at the surface. So that's why they go and play with those really morbid type of activism, where some pretty scary stuff that people are focusing on, with the child trafficking and all the different Illuminati stuff and the really, really just, you know, horrific stories that are out there that we see, and people are posting about, you know, animals being abused and all these things, and all about the stuff from the past that people have done and made major mistakes. Yes, and there are some evil people in the world, but people are focusing on that, and that's derived from the PTSD trauma, the person on a death trajectory projecting their weaknesses onto everybody else. Now, I'm not saying we all be positive either. No, because then there's the other side of that, where someone's like all about love, 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 and positive, 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 never say a cross word to anybody. And that is also just as imbalanced and just as destructive. So you can have the hate, you know, hopelessness and depression and yuckiness, and that's an imbalance. And then you have all the love, love, love crowd, which is just as destructive. So there has to be a balance, and the balance in between is the boundaries and you loving yourself enough to take care of yourself, go through the pain of healing. Because remember, you have positive and negative elements in your body. It's not just positive elements in your body. You have trace minerals, okay? Those have a positive or negative charge, and then the salt and the nutrition and all that stuff have positive charges, okay? And then there's a mixture, and the body keeps the balance based upon the environment. And you're always adapting to your environment. And if you have a weak body, you'll have a harder time adjusting and adapting to your environment. Okay, but we have to understand all the stories out there first, so we can then just put that to bed and now understand how to read these stories, and when they're coming from good and evil, okay, and you'll pick out the good and evil, and then how someone characterizes something, pollution versus nutritious, or something toxic versus non-toxic. Well, what makes it toxic? It's because, first of all, it's an imbalance, but people use toxic in very, very flippantly. They'll say that tomatoes are toxic. They'll say that soda is toxic. Not really, no, because I can drink soda, it's not toxic. Oh, but it's toxic to you because you have an imbalance in your biochemistry. So that's how you characterize toxic, is based upon your perception, based upon your biochemistry you're imposing. So we say that vaccines are toxic. No, they're not toxic. They're only toxic on people who have imbalances, weaknesses already in their body. So some of these words are used as if, like they're used, yes, like if you take just straight up mercury, or drinking straight up of Drano, that's toxic, right? That's a universal toxin. But then they characterize tomatoes as toxic. Okay, so then now you're looking at, okay, well, tomato is a food, it's not toxic. So why are they saying it's toxic? Oh, because they have an allergy. So now they're imposing their shortcomings onto everybody else. So now it's understanding the difference between those two too. Okay, so that's why the English language is so difficult, because you have to learn how to read through the bullshit, read through the stories, pick out really where someone's coming from. They're coming from a point of weakness. When they're telling stories about the Illuminati and about the Rothschilds, and they're demonizing all of the heads of states and demonizing the queen and demonizing everything, and then they're putting all of these types of characterizations, their opinion on if they're good or evil. Guess what? That person who's fearing the elite and fearing all of these different creatures, they're coming from a major imbalance, and they're not even doing the J juice, or they're saying they're doing the J juice, but they're not doing it, because they would have figured out for, you know, that's all a stupid story based upon someone's shortcomings. Okay, so, you know, when someone characterizes someone as reptilian, it's because they're reptilian. Really, they're the ones that coming from an imbalance, where they have testosterone or adrenaline or certain hormones that are way coming to surface, and then it's then being projected, and then that's how they characterize someone as evil. People talk who think that I'm evil and I'm like, you know, all my naysayers, they're coming from a point of imbalance. They're fearing everything because they don't understand anything. So when they come from a fear and a jealousy and fear, jealousy, and hatred, then they're projecting what's inside of them. So it won't matter if it's me or if it's a Rothschild or if it's a Morgan or if it's a Rockefeller. People who hate just hate everything that doesn't agree with them because they have imbalances. So just watch who it is that you hate, who it is that you're demonizing. Okay, whatever it is, I don't care if it's me or if it's a Rothschild or an Illuminati or a Freemason. It doesn't matter. Hatred comes from imbalance. Fear comes from imbalance. Okay, and then it gets translated into stories like the demiurge, the archons, reptilians, the Pleiadians, and then you start seeing the patterns. David Icke is no different than Zack Bagan. They both can tap into certain frequencies because they have kindred spirits. They both are on a death trajectory, so they can see the viruses / ghosts / reptilians and archons. Okay, so now you know. So it doesn't even matter. I mean, and the whole thing with the aliens too, the Greys, and you have the Pleiadians, another alien, but that's a good alien, right? Okay. So so this is just something more for you guys to just think about. But when it really comes down to it, everything relates back to science. It can be explained, it can be substantiated, it can be scientifically proven. And so once you bring it back to science and then you start reading the stories, you will see the duality of the good, evil, life, and death. Because that's all, it all comes down to life and death. The two absolutes in our world is life and death. Okay? Good and evil, life and death. So anyways, I'm going to go, but you guys just, you can replay this video and do the J juice. All of your emotions, your sadness, your anger, your pleasure hunting, all of your crazy emotions that are out of control, you will eventually get them under control with the J juice once you do the J juice. Okay? And so some of you are very, very highly emotional. I can already see it with you, Anastasia. You're very, very emotional, like super emotional. I mean, when you say, I'm sad, I miss what you said, you can replay this video. There's no reason to be sad. So, but anyways, you got to watch my videos, Anastasia. Okay, viruses are basically data. I'll explain this, just one thing, Anastasia. And then you got to watch the videos, the last 20, 30, whatever, 50 videos on my YouTube. Okay, but viruses are just data. All they are is data. And if you have a weak body, which means you have imbalances in your fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals, then the body is going to then take that data and the data will take over. And so it'll just keep destroying, because that's the balancing force. The viruses, they balance out everything. They destroy what is weak. And if you are exposed to a vaccine or a virus and you get symptoms, it means that you're weak. The body's trying to adapt, and if you can't adapt, it then goes into a death trajectory and then emotions come out. Okay? And so on a strong body, if you're asymptomatic, then you are doing great. Those viruses then evolved you to the next level. Every single time I got exposed to a virus this last month, it kept evolving me to another revelation. I went through my upset homeostasis, very mild upset homeostasis, because I healed and sealed for the most part. So I can be exposed to viruses and it won't put me into symptomatic mode. I won't be so like sick and flu and all that stuff, right? I can handle being around all the different viruses because viruses actually evolved humans. They actually helped the Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens come together and make a stronger human race. Okay? So viruses are actually good on a strong body, but a weak body, whoever's not doing the J juice is going to have adverse reactions to a virus. And the whole thing with the vaccines is instead of dying from an aggressive data source, which is a virus, instead of dying from it, it just maims you, because you're going to be exposed to that virus no matter what. So that Ebola virus that's coming around on a strong body, it's going to then take us to the next level. So I can't wait for the Ebola virus to come to our soil. But on a weak body, if you already have issues and weaknesses in your circulatory system and in your immune system, then that Ebola virus is going to destroy a very weak person. So then what's the vaccine for? Is to help you transition, to help you get that information, and your body transitions. Yes, you're going to have adverse reactions, and this is where the different diseases come from. But instead of dying, you get a disease. Okay? Would you rather live with a disease than die outright from exposure to a virus, which is just data on a body that's either weak or strong? Remember, your device is either upgraded or it's been downgraded. So Anastasia, you probably haven't upgraded your device, which is probably why you might be afraid of viruses. I have no idea. I'm just making an assumption, because you haven't, I don't think you're on the protocol. You haven't really been following me, really, or you would have known about viruses. Okay? But yes, on a very weak body, viruses will destroy, because the viruses are what is Mother Nature's balancing force. It destroys, but man goes in and manipulates. So it allows you to then transition, and then you get the diseases, because that's better than dying, right? Isn't autism better than dying? Right? Yes. Okay. So anyways, so right now at this point, all this information for the most part is going to be my next book coming up next year that I'm collaborating with Kevin Van Rompuy. And right now, the book that's out right now has the protocol in it. Okay, now it has some anti-vax stance, which I'm not anti-vax anymore. It has some demonization stances, like I was against like soy or something, but soy is not poisonous. So I have some of my old conspiracy fear in the back of this book. However, but yeah, I mean, the protocol is in here. The protocol is in here. Okay. So anyways, good luck to you, Anastasia. But next time I get on the Facebook Live, I want you to chill out on the comments. Okay. Because this is really not about me interacting with just you. Okay. If you just watch my videos, okay, and please keep up, watch my videos. I'm not here to counsel anybody. I'm not anybody's doctor. I'm not anybody's coach, and I don't want to be anybody's coach. But there are some people that are very, very needy. And when someone is that needy in my world, and even on my timeline right here, on my comment line, I usually block, because they don't know their boundaries. And when I say, please chill out on the comments, and they don't, you're not hearing me, okay? The way to understand my protocol is to get the book, at least read the protocol and the diet and the healing symptoms, and understand pain, and watch my videos. And then I have a secret public private Facebook group that, yeah, it's open to the public if you get the book, so you have no idea who's in there screenshotting stuff, but you can ask limited questions, okay? But we can't tell you what the protocol is going to do for you. We can't tell you if it's going to reverse all your stuff, because I have no idea what you understand and how much you understand, and I have no idea about anything about you. So you have to take the time to understand this information, and then you tell us how the Jilly Juice works in your world. But I know there's many, many needy people, many. And the way for me to save myself so I don't get sucked dry from everybody with so much need is that if I tell you about, if I give you a boundary and you still cross it, then I relegate you to then the YouTube videos, because you won't be on my Facebook anymore. So I'm going to give you a fair warning. Next time I go on Facebook Live and you want to keep commenting all of your perception and all of your suggestions and all of your perspective, I will block. Okay? My information is for you to listen to, understand, process it. If you agree with it, great. If you don't, I don't need to hear it. Okay? And then you take this on if it's something that you're interested in. If not, then don't worry about it. Okay? But this is purely for people to understand the connections with all the spiritual, all the religions, all of the science. So they understand there are patterns that we must pick out and be aware of, so we don't get caught up in somebody's story, whatever it is. because there's a lot of stories out there that have the same patterns. You just have to pick out the key words, then you understand where someone's coming from. Okay? So so when you are bringing yourself to every situation, you are the common denominator, right? So why people's life is hell or why it's great is because of your imbalances. And that's something that you have to personally deal with yourself. Nobody else can do it for you. That's why this protocol and the J Juice and my Facebook is about independent understanding, learning, and then applying it, and then you telling us your journey on the J Juice protocol. And that's it. Okay, I don't need anybody sending me messages about how they should watch all these videos. Nothing like that. Okay, so have a great day. And if you want to be part of my Facebook world and you're not doing the J Juice, just chill out, because you have no idea what I know, what I don't know. And you just need to come from a perspective of just learning my information and sitting in the background. Okay? All right. You guys have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.